Welcome to Keith and the Girl. I'm Keith Malley.
And I'm Andrea Jones-Rooy.
Andrea, hello, Andrea. How are you? Nice to meet you. I love your podcast, Behind the Data.
Thanks, Keith. I love this podcast. I am doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. I like talking about people's names up front that are new to
Okay.
Keith and the Girl. And Jones-Rooy, is that two names, and those your parents' names?
It is, and you got it right. It is my Jones is my mother and Roy is my father. But as I got older, people used to tended to assume I was married.
Right.
And I am not. My parents are just they were progressive for the 80s. So
Would you
I'm
be on
hanging out with two
dating
names.
apps? Would you be on a dating app and have to be clear? Like, just saying, it's my parents' names.
Yeah, you'd have to get a lot of times what would happen is I would be like once I was on a first date with someone and we ran into a colleague and he said, "Oh, so nice to meet your husband." And I was like, "Oh, this is so awkward. Like that's my parents' name." So, yeah.
Was it ever
But
hassle growing up? Like, hey, why can't I just have
totally.
one name?
Huge. I still have a problem with it. When I was in third grade, I tried to go just by Roy because I thought of the two, it was the more interesting name. No offense to the Joneses out there. And I
Sure.
started to feel so guilty about my mother. She didn't care, but I felt so guilty about her that I brought it back. But I've always been envious of a single name. I think the other thing my parents didn't think through, filling out any form, airline
Yes.
reservations, official ID. It's a hyphen, it's an apostrophe, it's a space, it's nothing, no one knows. But the other thing is, I am highly Googleable. So if you're looking me up, it's either my brother or me. So there is that, which is good or bad, I guess, depending on your view.
Did you get some kind of hassle in school? Like you're like, hey, my parents, whether they're married or not, this is they're together, and don't look at me like I'm a bastard of some kind.
I didn't get much. I think my friends and I didn't traffic in last names very much, but my mother got a lot of grief. She would constantly get, well, why doesn't your name match your children's? If she was here to pick us up from school, it wasn't a perfect match. I mean, at least the Jones was in there,
Right.
but her last name was just Jones, not Roy. She added the Roy later. So people would get confused about whose parents were whom, and it never made her feel particularly good.
So the Roy was added when after you were born.
It was added. She added the Roy to her own name
Okay,
when I was like 30. She just decided that she was going
I
to join
see.
the family. So,
Okay,
but here's more drama than anybody wants, or maybe the right amount of
please.
drama. I learned about 5 or 6 years ago from my father that before I was born, he thought he and my mother had agreed that Jones would be a second middle name and Roy would be my last name, and
I
that it would
see.
be Andrea and my middle name is Elizabeth. Jones space new last full last name is Roy. And on my birth certificate, it turns out it's written that way. But all my other documents, passports, everything, it's Jones hyphen Roy. And so I asked my mother, I was like, which one is it? And she said, it's whatever one you want it to be, which was entirely unhelpful. So I guess I could go by Roy at this stage.
Life's not hard enough to figure out. I got to figure out who
Yeah.
I literally am.
Yeah, literally. And
Yeah.
plus, the Roy has two O's, which throws
Yeah.
people off. So I spend a lot of time explaining that. Anytime someone's like, okay, last name for the reservation, you're just like, it's Smith. Move on. I can't.
Well, congrats on the podcast Behind the Data. You just finished season one, eight
Yes.
episodes. And
Yes.
why I didn't do seasons, I'll never know. I feel like it's too late now. Keith and the Girl is on season number 487. I just did the math. You talk about data points and what's out there in the world. What can we learn from it? And now you hear what people are saying. Yes, sounds boring as shit. But you do
Yeah.
it very fun, and you have fun colleagues that you talk about this stuff with. And as I go throughout the show, maybe I can ask you some data things you've learned about it. I know you've learned
Perfect.
about crime, for example, even something silly
Yes.
like movies and TV. So we'll get to some
That's
of that.
right. That's right.
New York City had 5 days of no shooting. It was a 5 day no shooting streak.
Wow.
The cops announced that, like, hey, look, it's been 5 days. 5 minutes after that, there was another shooting.
The number one way to start a shooting is to say there haven't been very many shootings.
Right.
Now, is this shootings where people die or just shooting full stop? Like
Any kind of shooting. It could be
any
shootings
kind of
in
shooting?
legs, that kind of thing. The
Wow.
very next shooting happened to be in the leg of a road rage incident.
Sure. Fine. That sounds
Yeah.
right. Was that on the FDR? I bet it was.
Assume.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so let me get to this right away. Crime data
Mm.
seems like something nobody can fucking agree on.
Yes.
And I pick up both the Daily News and the Post, and you
Mm.
would think, who's do they make shit up? Do they just go, well, I'm deliberately taking these black towns and talking about that only. Like what? How do
Right.
we know what's true or not? How do we
Right. So
know?
that's part of the reason I started the show is that we argue about the results from the data. Like we say it's gone up or it's gone down and we can't agree. And it's like there must
Right.
be, you watch these debates and it's all infuriating. You're like, there must be a reality underneath this. So the
Right.
goal of the show is to find that reality or at least understand how that reality has been turned into data so that we can start to make sense of it. And I always start to sound like a do your own research sort of person, but it really is like I think we need to understand where this data comes from before we scream at each other about what's going on. So crime is very tricky because it's not like a crime happens and all of a sudden a line appears on a spreadsheet, right? Like someone has to report the crime. The police have to show up. The police have to agree that it was a crime. They have to write it down. It then has to go and be sent up to a county level thing, a state level thing. And then it's aggregated. And then a year and a half later, we get the numbers from something that happened in 2023. So it's a whole process that can definitely be corrupted. So the problem with crime and arguing about crime is that A, you can pick whatever crime you want to focus on. You could say crime's going up, but what you really mean is murders. And murders are actually a very tiny percentage of crime. It's a crime we care about, but
As
it's a very,
opposed
very
to like
small percentage.
shoplifting, you'll say, right?
Shoplifting, auto theft, burglary, assault, all kinds of other cheerful things. And so you could say that crime is going down if you focus just on auto thefts, because auto theft and property theft generally has been going down. So you can pick your story. So both sides are technically telling the truth, but what they're not doing is giving you that proper context. The other thing that, depending on what story you're trying to tell, you can be very politically motivated about it, is you don't even just have to choose between what type of crime. You can make arguments about the data collecting process. So you could say, well, we're talking about crime, but really what we're talking about is reported crime. So if I'm in a neighborhood that has a whole bunch of crime going on and someone else says, well, actually the national crime rates are going down, I could make a fair argument that says, well, that's reported crime in the country. And in my area, A, my area is different from the rest of the country. And B, no one is reporting the crime because we don't trust the police. So those numbers are not in the data set. Or the police take too long to get to the scene of the crime. Or in the case of things like rape or sexual assault, there's very low reporting rates. So we tend to assume that those numbers are really much higher than so each type of crime kind of has its own interpretation and nuance. And if there's anything,
you worked for the
go ahead.
website 538, right?
Yeah.
They do
Yeah.
data points and polling and all this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I have to assume you talk to other people or even get hate mail, go, no, this is why this isn't right.
Yes.
And you could tell they're trying to screw with the numbers. Do you enjoy devil's advocates in this kind of talk? Because I couldn't think of anything more torturous.
No, I hate it.
Okay.
I worked at 538 for about a year and a half, and I worked on the political polls mostly, the that we read ahead of the elections. This was ahead of the 2018 midterm was the one that I worked on, which was probably one of the less contentious years that we had. And I would get email all the time from people who were saying the polls are biased. No one's ever called me, so obviously they're not representative.
Right.
And I thought I was being a real American hero. I wrote back and I said, well, I've actually never been called either. The probability that anyone's going to be called is very low. And actually, if you ever got a call from a number you didn't recognize, that could have been a poll, whatever. And so I tried to be nice. And then I very quickly got a note from my editor that says, we don't respond to hate mail. And I said, oh, okay, fine. We got a lot that were just MAGA 2020, all
Sure.
caps, that kind of stuff.
Well, they always know too. I'll get emails. I'm anti-Trump, and I'll get emails.
Yeah.
Saying, do your research. I'm like, it's funny that you did your research. That's what's interesting. But everything I'm saying happens to just be what? A flat out lie?
Right. I mean, the kind of the goal with the podcast is I find solace in data, and that's the nerdiest thing I've ever said. Yeah. But I feel like anytime we're screaming at each other, are vaccines good or bad? Is the economy... The first episode in the new season, which is coming out in a couple of weeks, is going to talk about jobs data. Do we have a healthy economy or not? Well, if we look at the labor market, blah, blah, blah. And you can tell whatever story you want. And so I was like, what if we just get the froth and the headlines and the screaming and the points of view that we all have and just talk about the actual numbers and where they come from? And in every single case, whether it's medical data, economic data, data about movies, there's a ton of nuance and like philosophical judgment. Like how bad does something have to be to consider it an illness? How bad does it have to be to consider it a crime? How little work do you have to call yourself unemployed? And so those are deep philosophical questions that I think we would all benefit from talking about, as opposed to screaming and showing different charts that that we've handpicked to tell the story that we want to tell.
Right.
It's not working. People are yelling at me, but I'm
Are you
trying.
less surprised about things in life because you study this thing, or like when Trump was elected,
Mm.
were you surprised? Not because you're surprised people are assholes, or were you surprised? Like, were you surprised, or are you like, no, I followed the numbers, and the way I feel, unfortunately, here we are.
It's hard to separate politics. I take very personally, so I had my own feelings about it, which were hard to separate from the statistical evidence that was coming out. So looking back, two things were very clear in retrospect, power of hindsight. One, it was the polls were all suggesting it was going to be a very close race. And the polls were surprisingly good. A lot of people will yell at me for saying that, but they actually were pretty good. They said it's going to be a close race, and it was. All the swing states went towards Trump, and so the overall number electoral college votes is higher, but it was a very close rate, right? The second thing is that in political science, which is what my original PhD was in, the number one predictor of whether the incumbent party is going to win in the election is the health of the economy. And if you are on the right or even parts of the left, you thought the economy was not working, even though there was evidence that some parts were really good, like inflation had been slowed, blah, 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 but prices were still high, yada, yada. So from the basic fundamentals, I should have seen and I should have expected that Trump would win. However, I am a concerned human and I also have emotions. And so I was just hanging on. If you flip a coin 6 times and 3 times it's heads and 3 times it's tails, you're like, yeah, but the next time it'll be heads because I need it to be heads because I put a lot of money on it. Like my own judgment gets in the way of that. But looking back, it's like, yeah.
What's going on with the eggs?
Eggs?
Yeah, what's happening?
This is going to really endear me with your audience. I bought eggs for the first time in my life the other day. And you know what? They were expensive. I've been vegan for a very long time, but decided to start cooking it for my dogs. So I had to go to the store and say to the person at the store, I said, I've never bought eggs. What should I look for? And and he was like, get out of my store. Like, these woke liberal elites don't even know how to buy eggs. So I am only, and truly, I was like, wow, this is quite expensive. And I'm not very good at making them. So those are my thoughts on eggs.
Do you worry that you tempt yourself being vegan? No?
No. I've been vegan long enough that it doesn't even register as food to me.
Okay. If you saw meat, is it like disgusting to look at? I have a brother that's vegan, and he's like, I was show him like a perfectly done steak, and he's like, that looks so gross. I'm like, wow, it really
doesn't look appetizing. Like, I don't feel like I want to eat it. The only thing that ever seems appealing to me is fried chicken. For some reason, that and corn dogs. I ate meat until I was in 3rd grade, so I have a child's taste. So corn dogs and fried chicken seem amazing. The only time meat has ever bothered me is I went to a ex-boyfriend's company offsite and it was a lobster thing in New England. And I was like, whatever, I can be around meat. I'm used to it. It doesn't bother me. I just, like I said, it doesn't register as food. I just, okay, they're eating something chewy. But I go into this like tent by the ocean and 100 people at once are just like cracking lobster shells and the juices. I had to leave. That was the one time I was like, this is too far.
Like the shrimp scene in the Substance. Do you find yourself healthier than the majority of your friends?
My boyfriend and I, he's not vegan. He eats whatever he wants. We have a big argument about who's healthier, and he's convinced I'm going to die first. So romance is alive and well in our relationship. Do you have to show articles? Do you have to show articles that say, I have as much energy as you. I get the same shit you do? Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say because, and this gets back to data as it often does, is, what counts as healthy and by what metric. So if you're going by blood pressure, I have very low blood pressure. Is that because I'm vegan or because of just my genetics or something else, right? So it's kind of hard to make those comparisons. I'm convinced it's healthier. However, I'm also inclined to believe people when they tell me when I don't eat meat, I don't feel well. And I did circus for a long time, and I've had trainers say, if you don't start eating meat, you will never build the muscle mass that you need to actually take your skills to the next level. And I just decided that was something I was willing to trade off. So I'm open to the possibility that different diets are better for different people. So you're feeling good, but no powerlifting. Yeah. Okay. And if I weren't like mentally ill, and I use that term clinically, like part of the reason I'm vegan is from a lifetime of eating disorders and all kinds of terrible, there's other reasons, but that's part of it. If I weren't so rigid, I could see a world where I might eat eggs and where I might eat something like salmon seems like it's good for you and people seem to like it. Like I could see that being like, yeah, if I have salmon a couple times a month, but I'm too
Right.
rigid in my life. So
I just had a
bring smoothies it
colonoscopy
is.
done. Did you have to get there yet?
Not yet. I dread the day. I watched your episode. The prep sounds horrible.
I don't think it'd
Are,
be so bad if I just knew.
yeah,
And they really do not tell you that plan to be on the toilet half a fucking day.
that is rough. Is there no better way to do this? It seems very
No, they
primitive.
have. I'll tell you about pills. I heard that you could take instead of the liquid, but you're still on the toilet, so it doesn't. What's the difference?
Do you have to do it every year? What? How often does this happen?
Now you do it whenever you want. I think at 45 you're supposed to now, and
45.
then you're supposed to do it every 5 years. I don't know about that.
Ooh. No, I'm 42, and so I will enjoy these remaining few years. Does it
Uh,
hurt?
no, not the actual thing doesn't hurt. It hurts when I don't know that I'll be shitting all day, so I keep wiping. That hurts.
Oh,
And then I realize I'll just take showers all the time. And
yeah.
honestly, if I did it again, I think I'd water shit in the shower because it
Oh
really
yeah.
is all liquid, and I would just stay in there.
God.
I think
I
we'll
feel
see.
sick just thinking about it.
Oh, it's
Good. I
disgusting.
mean, good for you taking care of your health, but
Well, I
that's
got upset that there was nothing wrong. I'm like, just make
mm.
up. You took a polyp out.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I
you
did
did
that
it,
for
so it's worth
nothing.
it.
Should I have done Cologuard where you shit in a box, mail it? I'm sure
Right,
it's a special box, and they tell you if you have a something that looks
right,
cancerous, and then you can get the colonoscopy. I
right,
wonder if I would have done it
right,
that way, or if I'll do
right.
it that way next time because I know I don't have anything now. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I
But
mean,
yeah,
this is
what?
not at that level, but when I turned 40 a couple of years ago, it meant I needed to start getting mammograms, and those are no fun. I mean, it's
That's
really
what I
not at that
heard.
level, but it's much straight. Even though I knew about it and I knew it, you've heard stories and whatever, it's
Yeah.
a very you're just like we haven't thought of anything better than just squishing between
Yeah.
pieces of black. Like, it's not. A lot of medicine is more rudimentary than you think, and there's a lot of advanced stuff. But some of this is just like, well, clear it out
Right.
or jam it in there.
It's probably just sexist too because I
Yeah.
don't have to put my penis in a waffle maker during a checkup. But no, we just couldn't figure out what to do for women yet.
I mean, the one I really have to say, I really respect the woman I've gone twice now, who's the same woman both times each year, whose job it is to kind of jam the boob into the thing and then warn
Right.
you that it's going to squeeze. Like, her whole job is just shoving breasts into boxes.
Right.
And she's quite pleasant about it. And she warns you. But those she's doing a hero's work because the machines are very not fun.
Right.
Medieval even. Yeah.
Literally cold, I would assume.
Yes.
Ryan V wrote, "Hey Keith, I give more shits about this email than a butt doctor makes happen during their busiest week. Your colonoscopy story reminded me of a guy I knew who needed one once. He did not follow the instructions. He ate and drank normally up until the night before his appointment. And the next morning, he drank the entire bottle of prep. By the way, there's 2 bottles before heading to the doctor's office. You, of course, do your prep the day before. He lied and said he followed the rules exactly, and they put him under anesthesia.
Oh.
He was woken up a very short time later by some very upset medical staff who informed him that they knew for a fact he did not follow the instructions because the second the camera tube touched the anus, he immediately exploded like a pressurized sewer main and sprayed high-velocity hot liquid shit all over them, the table, and the examination room. I don't know who had to drive him home from that, not me, who had to drive him home from that appointment, but I'm guessing they probably said they weren't available to drive for him again the next time he tried to get his butt inspected. Hope this made you giggle, but not so much that you need to change your underwear. Love, Ryan V. Yeah, you can't make.
Wow.
Here's what I knew. I wish I knew you can stop the prep once you're shitting water. They don't
Yeah.
tell me that either. Because when I think about it now, how scientific could it be that your body, vegan and smaller, is the same exact amount of medical shit that
Right.
I take?
Right. They're like, just flush it out with the same amount, the same fire hose the whole time.
Kathy Roddy writes, fucking dying laughing. Anyway, yeah, I had one last year and my insurance paid for the pills, and it was a lot of pills. It was 16 total, 1-6. That's a lot of pills. Had to take 8 with 3 16-ounce bottles of water at 3 p.m. the day before, then 8 more with 3 more bottles of water at 8 p.m. I did not sleep the night, obviously, because
Yeah.
I was cramping in the bathroom. Oh, and the farts coming out of anesthesia were so embarrassing. But hey, at least I had one polyp they had to remove. Good for you. Good for you. The
Ah,
anesthesia dreams were crazy too. Skydiving and Marvel heroes. I don't think I ever had a. I didn't remember. I don't remember
yeah.
any dream during that stuff
No, I've
ever.
only been under once, and I didn't know you could dream during that kind of thing. Maybe
But
they
this
didn't put it
is
under far enough.
maybe this is something else that I wish they warned me. It's silly, but when I was done, it's like a couple minutes. I'm just laying there, and I'm like, oh, I have to use the bathroom again. And so I go, do I use the bathroom by the locker room, like 20 feet away? And they go, oh, there's one literally around the corner. So it's like, oh, okay, I can walk 20
Mhm.
feet, but apparently everybody must do this. It was a false alarm, but the farts were so fucking long and loud. And I'm like, why didn't they tell me about this? Once I
And you're in
realized
a
it's just
hospital, it's going
farts.
to echo.
It
Yeah.
it did echo because then I leave and I asked the guy, how long is this going to go on? He's like, well, I don't know how much gas or whatever they put up your asshole.
Oh
And
my
I'm like,
God.
okay, but at least now I expect it. Then I go to the locker room next to that other bathroom and I hear some lady in there and it's just fart sounds. And I want to be like, it's okay. I realized it's
It's normal.
okay.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
warn
don't think I had
somebody.
any idea it was so brutish. I mean, I don't, I'm grateful that there are procedures so we can be careful about our
Right.
health, but like, it just seems like we should figure out a
Archaic.
better way. Yes,
Yes.
arcane is the word I want.
Yes. Yes.
It's just
That
like, oh,
was.
this is a plumbing system. We'll just treat it as such.
Uh-huh. Super Bowl's coming up. Do you give a shit?
Not really.
Okay.
I am a little bit oversaturated on Travis Kelsey, so I'm gonna cheer for the other team. That's the extent of what I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it because her and Taylor, or just he's in too
Yeah,
much?
I just think he's in too much. I don't think he's a great mix for Taylor. I don't know Taylor, but I've just decided
Okay.
that I know what's best. And I have a really good friend who, well, really good. He's a friend now. He's gonna think that that's weird. That I said really good. But a friend of mine who's a huge Bills fan, and I don't really follow sports, but I feel I worry about my friends who do. And he's so into the Bills that when I saw they lost because the Empire State Building lit up the other colors,
Hmm.
I was very worried about him. So I also have to go against the Chiefs for that reason.
Does he
So I
have
mostly do
referee
like tribal
thoughts?
loyal. Yeah.
Sometimes it does look like the refs are really giving shit to the Chiefs because it'd be exciting for them to win three Super Bowls in a row. Do your
Yeah.
friends talk about that?
I haven't talked about him
Okay.
that enough. He more just told me that he was going to go do a bunch of heroin.
Okay. Okay. Sure.
So that was the level of our conversation. Yeah. He'll be all right.
Kansas City is the 1.5 favorite, 1.5 favorite against the Eagles.
Oh, it's tough to cheer for the Eagles because they're annoying too.
Yeah, but yeah, you know what? Both. It's hard to, because I don't really care. It is hard to decide. There's
Yeah.
did you see the clip of the mayor of Philadelphia saying, "Let's go Eagles," and she tried to spell Eagles and and literally couldn't. She's like
Oh.
ELSGES Eagles. And I'm like, oh,
Well,
that's the mayor.
they got their own at the top of
Right.
the pile, I guess.
First of all, Philadelphia is where are they famous for? They're a cheesesteak. It's shit.
That's right.
It's horrible. And there's nothing clever or classy about Whiz. Why is that cute? The worst cheese ever. You act like that's a
Oh,
fucking
Cheese
thing.
Whiz is a Philadelphia thing? I didn't know that.
Yeah, you do
Wow.
cheese whiz on the meat, and
Oh,
you're
that's what makes it a cheesesteak?
yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be done, and
Wow.
that's silly. We're adults.
Yeah. They give Cheese Whiz to my dogs at the vet to distract them from getting vaccines, which is the
Oh
only
yeah,
time I interact with Cheese Whiz in my life these days.
but then barbecue in Kansas City. I've had it. Charlotte has better barbecue. Meh. So yeah,
Hmm.
makes it hard to figure out
Yeah.
who to pick. When Philadelphia does win, they're so happy they have to burn down their city.
That's right.
Maybe you remember a video of a guy in Philadelphia. He was happy he won, so he started eating horse shit that was on the ground. So exciting things happen when they win. That'd be fun
Yeah.
to see.
And there is, quite a few exciting things that can happen when they lose, but they're less fun. So
Yes,
so maybe yeah,
correct.
I'll support the Eagles in that way. I just
Let,
also this is me being hateful, but it's just like
mhm.
the Travis and Taylor thing. It's like, can these people? Does anything bad happen to these people? Like they just keep winning everything. Is that what's going to happen? Or just they win and the rest of us lose. I'm feeling very bitter right
You
now.
think you're playing?
Yeah.
Trump posted on Truth Social after the 32-29 victory over the Bills, and he made sure to shout out that to part of the Chiefs fan base. He said, "Congratulations, this is Trump. Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs. What a great team, coach, quarterback, and virtually everything else, including those fantastic fans. They voted for me, MAGA, in record numbers." Aw, what a sweet message. Likewise, congrats to the Buffalo Bills on a tremendous season. They will do a lot of winning long into the future. While Trump dished out praise for both teams in the AFC, he was silent on the Philadelphia Eagles winning the NFC Championship over the Washington Commanders. And you know why? Because 80% of Philadelphia voted for Kamala.
That's right.
That's why.
And the Commanders, I mean, DC is a very blue district. Not that it, he lives there, so I guess it's okay. But yeah, of course he's not going to shout out Philadelphia.
In 2018, while Trump was serving his first term, he withdrew his invitation to the Eagles to visit the White House after their Super Bowl win over Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. It came after several Eagles players said they wouldn't go to meet Trump after his comments about those who knelt in protest of police brutality and racial injustice during the national anthem that season. So they said they're not going to go. And Trump said, you know what? You can't go.
I love that. I feel like the left is often given grief for politicizing things, but this is, Trump is politicizing football, which is supposed to be one of the few things.
He's politicizing disaster relief. He's not saying he's not going to really give too much help for California. They should have voted different, but North Carolina during those floods, yeah, they can have some money. It's
he
very
also
petty.
spent the entire run up to being inaugurated, criticizing California for their handling of it.
Right.
And so I guess it's going to proceed to not step up and take responsibility. But okay.
What did you see that? So there's the inauguration. Barack Obama was sitting next to George Bush, and a lip reader is saying that they were able to see that Barack Obama was saying to George W. Bush, how do we stop this?
No way. I did not see that.
Barack Obama asked George W. Bush how they could stop what's happening during President Trump's inauguration. Jackie Gonzalez, a deaf woman who shares her interpretations of celebrities and politicians' private conversations on social media, made a now viral video revealing that what she believed the two former presidents were discussing. According to Gonzalez, but I don't know about these lip readers. I thought you saw that thing like you hear green needle or you hear brainstorm.
Yeah.
Depending on what you see, so I don't know.
Or the Seinfeld episode in the 90s where they think they're going to sleep together, but they're going to sweep together. That's my recent reference for you.
According to Gonzalez, Obama greets Bush and tells him, "Good to see you," and the crowd burst into boisterous round of applause for him. Obama then apparently thanks the crowd before turning to Bush and saying, "How can we stop what's happening?" The video then shows Bush with a sly grin across his face, starting to laugh over Obama's comments. Gonzalez shares a disclaimer on her pages, noting that lip reading is not a reliable form of communication and all statements are alleged. Oh, withdrawn.
Yeah. Did Bush have any ideas for how to stop this? I'm all ears / eyes.
It would be funny. He's like, what you got? What you got?
Yeah.
He's like, no, I was just saying, maybe we can't. Oh,
yeah. Well. Was he trying to stop? If he was trying to stop this, that event, you could stop that event, but I don't know if you could stop the train.
Just keep running up over and over again.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Knock over a podium.
Mm-hmm. State Medicaid agencies say they haven't been able to access federal funds. So, all right. This is what I was talking about. To get your insurance shit done now. You never fucking know. And apparently now you know. Let's see. White House denies it's pausing all federal grants, but the groups can't access money. Okay.
It sounds like a pause grant to me, but okay.
What's that? What'd you say?
It sounds like the grant has been paused. If you're not getting it.
That's what it sounds like.
Who am I to say?
Speaking of rapists, Chris Brown has filed a $500 million defamation lawsuit against the producers of the Investigation Discovery docuseries Chris Brown, A History of Violence. Chris Brown, of course, the one who beat the shit out of Rihanna. That we don't need to debate. In the complaint, the With You singer, 35, accuses Warner Brothers Discovery, Ample Entertainment, and others of promoting and publishing defamatory claims, including that he raped a woman in 2020, despite them being supplied with proof that counters the allegations. This sounds like what Marilyn Manson did, for example. He sued Evan Rachel Wood, who I can't imagine why she'd be making up this all his attacks for what, you know? It's only going to hurt her career. We know the world we live in. And so he said, "Okay, I'm going to sue you. All this is bullshit." And then, you know, there's a court case or two, and he goes, "You know what? I withdraw it all, but you already got it out there that you are fighting it. So if you want to be a Marilyn Manson fan, you can be like, no, he fought it. No, he didn't fight it. In fact, he paid the lawyer fees for Evan Rachel Wood."
Right. You just
That
put out a
didn't
press
happen.
release saying I'm going to fight it, and then don't do
Right.
anything.
Right. Oscar nominations. Do we give a shit? Andrew.
Not particularly. Do
Okay.
you? Is that an unhelpful? I mean, I'll pay attention, but I'm not like an Oscars,
I see
person.
almost every movie ever made, but I'm looking at this list and I don't recognize half of them. Or maybe I've
Yeah.
heard of them because of the Golden Globes, but I certainly haven't seen them. And most of them are so brand new also.
I watched part of A Complete Unknown, and then my dogs got into a bad fight with each other, and so we had to stop it. And then the mood was ruined, so I didn't watch the rest of it.
You did the right thing. You did the right
you.
thing. Does it seem like they're playing every song for you in real time? Then assume that keeps going on and on. There's
Got it.
nothing interesting about him in this movie, I think. You learn he was a womanizer. And the dude is still, what's his name? Why isn't it coming to me?
Bob Dylan?
Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan's still alive. So that means,
Yeah.
however they represented him in the movie, it's even worse.
Yes.
So that's it. He's very high on
That's true.
himself, and
Let's see.
he emotionally abuses women.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see part 2 when
Right.
after he
When
leaves
he
this
passes
earth.
away, the director's cut.
Yeah.
The 97th Academy Awards were announced. The musical Amelia Perez led with 13 nominations. Now, I'm Nation, believe me. But have you seen this, though?
I have not. I have a friend who is Mexican American and she hates it. And so most of my opinions are based on her Instagram stories. Have you seen it?
No. My girlfriend saw it, and she doesn't want me to see it. I think she likes it enough and doesn't want me to shit on
Oh,
it.
I see.
But
Interesting.
yeah, and no, I don't think I have an inkling. Here's a little clip that's going around on the internet. This is perfectly real.
Hello, very nice to meet you. I'd like to know about sex change operation. I see.
So this woman's talking for a friend in a doctor's office. It's about I think a transgender drug lord of some kind.
Man to woman, or woman to man,
Man to woman.
from penis to vagina. Is it for you?
For me.
What would you like to know about it, ma?
I want
By the way, a lot of HIPAA laws are being broke as they walk through this hospital, pointing at different
That's
people
right.
getting work done.
to know
right.
it all. What is the protocol? The techniques and the risks. How many operations? How much time do you need?
Mammoplasty,
Yes.
vaginoplasty,
Yes.
rhinoplasty,
Yes.
laryngoplasty,
Yes.
mammoplasty,
Yes.
vaginoplasty,
Yes.
rhinoplasty, laryngoplasty, control laryngoplasty.
What is that?
Adam's apple reduction.
Yes.
Oh, she loves it. There's no fucking way.
song.
The Oscars aren't fucking with us. 13 nominations. There's no way.
Catchy. I don't know. I mean, at the colonoscopy, did they offer to sing all your procedures and songs?
I was
at you?
out. They could have.
Yeah,
I don't
maybe
know if
they
I'm
did.
part of it. I could be part of this movie somehow.
That's right. Yeah.
Let's see. Brutalist and Wicked, 10 Oscar nominations each.
I like
Wicked.
Adrian Brody. That's Brutalist, right?
That's the Brutalist, and it's another Holocaust movie, I understand.
I see. He's been typecast as Holocaust. I
He
guess.
was so good in it. I believed him when he was
Yeah.
running for his life a couple years ago. I believed that.
Keep up a good thing. Wicked. Are you a Wicked fan?
I haven't seen Wicked. I know I will
haven't either.
eventually when it's, quote,
Yeah.
free on one of these services, because I'm going to have, it's almost 3 hours, which, by
it
the way, and
long?
I'll get to this later, but The Brutalist is 4 hours. Who has
Wow.
time for these fucking movies? I got to watch them
Wow.
at home, and I love a theater, but I got to watch them at home in several parts.
Yeah, I thought the whole thing was that our attention spans are dwindling. What are they doing to us? I mean,
Right.
I'm out here watching 90-second clips of Wicked, Ariana Grande dancing around. Like, that's where I
Right.
am.
With Wicked and Amelia Perez, this year marks the first time 2 musicals have been nominated for Best Picture since 1968, when Oliver and Funny Girl were getting their nominations. Conan O'Brien is set to host. Here we go. Best Picture, Anora. I don't know. The Brutalist.
I did see that. I don't know
Anora.
Best Picture, but
What
it's
happens?
okay.
What's it about?
It's set in New York, and it's I believe it's a Russian Brooklyn Russian community where a woman is a stripper in a nightclub, and a very
Ooh.
wealthy son of like an oligarch or whatever in Russia is there, and having like a huge night, champagne, blah blah blah, and basically they kind of peel off and become a couple, and then they fall in love, and then there's a lot of drama about his rich family coming to like put him in line, and there's kind of a big chase around the city. I hope I didn't spoil anything. It's good. I don't know about Best Picture.
It's just funny. There's only like 7 when these awards come out. It's like were there only 7 movies this year?
Well, and can't they nominate up to 10? It's like how insulting
Right.
for the rest that it's like there were 3 spots we chose to just leave blank, then list your movie. That's what we decided.
Anora, The Brutalist, The Complete Unknown, Conclave, another boring piece of dog shit.
What was Conclave?
They're voting for the Pope. Oh, I can't think of anything more
Right.
excited. The inner
my
workings of
God.
that, and you see them vote, and it's not a true story, of course, but you see them vote in real time, like the most boring parts of Survivor, and you just see them slowly walking and putting in their vote. Like I don't need it in
Oh,
real
I can't
time,
do
and you're not telling me until the end what the answer is. So who gives a shit?
It sounds like 12 Angry Men, but bad.
Yes, Dune Part 2. I'm over desert movies. I don't like desert.
Desert movies, you're just not looking at that sand anymore.
And there's not much for them to work with because it's a desert. So
Yeah.
no thanks. Yeah.
Okay.
And they're always up for best cinematography. And I'm like, yeah, of course. It's a desert.
It's
They're
just
still
a
pretty.
Big, yeah.
They're sweeping.
Yeah.
Amelia Perez, movie called I'm Still Here. No idea.
Oh, what is that? I'm still here.
I don't think anybody knows. Yeah. Nickel Boys. Do you know this?
No, I know
No.
Nickelback, but no.
Nickelback. Maybe they spelled it wrong. The Substance and Wicked.
I don't know Substance either.
I think you'd like Substance. I think.
What's that one about?
What men put women through? Am I wrong?
Hmm.
And so this woman has some kind of drug that she becomes a younger, prettier version of herself after she's getting spit out by Hollywood.
Is it Botox?
No, it's the best Botox ever.
You won't
It
believe
makes
this
you
Botox.
makes you a different person, but every 7 days you have to go back to the other person. And of course, some people like being their younger self, so they fuck with it.
Right.
And
right.
of course, there's a whole
Okay,
mess.
I could see people like that.
Best actor, Adrian Brody, Timothy Chalamet in A Complete Unknown, Coleman Domingo in Sing Sing. I don't think that's a movie. Ray Fiennes in Conclave, Sebastian Stan in The Apprentice. Now I don't know if you.
Apprentice.
It's about Trump and it's his rise to power, and I did see it, and I can understand. Trigger warning. It's about Trump.
Yeah.
But it is so well done. You don't really you're not gonna be like, whoa, now I know you're an asshole. And
Right.
if you were on
I
his
had
side
an open
bef-
mind until now, but
Right, and if-
let's see.
and if you don't believe the stuff in the news about him, you're not going to believe this anyway.
Yeah.
But it's very well done and interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who's the actor? I don't know that name.
Sebastian Stan, the Winter Soldier in Marvel movies, if you know that.
Okay.
The guy in A Different Man is a newer movie. Performance by an actor in supporting role, Yura Borisov in Anora. All right, your Russian
There's a Russian.
explanation fits. Karen Culkin in A Real Pain.
That's
You
supposed
wanna-
to be good. Have you seen that?
Yeah, it's cute. It's okay.
Okay.
It's cute, but I'm gonna tell you, they go to visit Holocaust, where they're I think it was like
Okay.
one of their aunts just died, and she was a Holocaust survivor, and they want to get in touch with like where she's from, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So 2 friends go on this journey, but they
Okay.
really do walk you through a one of those death camps. And it's very silent, and you're just, of course, supposed to take it in. But I'm in a multiplex, and I could tell on the left of me is Wicked, on the right is Gladiator 2. And I'm like,
Everyone's
guys,
cheering
easy.
and fighting and singing.
Yeah, I'll see you later.
Okay. I'll
And
watch it
Karen-
at home. In
Yes.
solemn. Yeah. Good.
And Karen Culkin is always Karen Culkin.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
not really acting, but
Yeah.
all right.
I mean, I liked Roman in Succession, so I might
Sure.
as well.
It's the
watch
same
one of
him.
these too.
It's the same him. Edward Norton in A Complete Unknown. Guy Pearce in The Brutalist. Jeremy Strong in The Apprentice.
I like Jeremy. I mean, I guess I'm just voting for the Succession cast at this
There you
point.
go. Well, they did good. They did some good stuff.
Yeah.
Actress in a leading role, Cynthia Erivo for Wicked. Carla Sofia Gascon for Emilia Perez. Mikey Madison for Honora. Demi Moore, the Substance, who really was playing herself. And Fernando Torres, and I'm Still Here. Performance by an actress in a supporting role. Monica Barbaro in A Complete Unknown, Ariana Grande in Wicked, Felicity Jones in The Brutalist, Isabella Rossellini in Conclave, Zoe Saldana, who you just heard, in Emilia Perez. Achievement in directing, Honora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Emilia Perez, The Substance. This, I think, is interesting. Achievement in film editing, Honora, 2 hours, 19 minutes. The Brutalist, 3 hours, 35 minutes. That's brutal. Conclave, over 2 hours. An hour, 45 minutes of voting. Emilia Perez, 2 hours, 12 minutes. Wicked, 2 hours, 40 minutes. These films didn't have editors.
Yeah. Achievement in editing. Just sit back and let the clips roll.
Right.
Like, that's what we're doing. That's how we're achieving. Yeah.
You did a podcast on how do movies and TV shows affect us. How would you sum that up? How do they affect us?
They affect us by it was with someone named Walt Hickey, who is a writer at Sherwood News and runs a daily newsletter called Numlock that sends kind of interesting news headlines through the lens of data to your inbox every day. Okay. And he's very interested in pop culture, and so he wrote a whole book uncovering the different ways that pop culture affects us. So it can be very easy to say, well, it's just music and movies and whatever, and it's like, it doesn't really matter. But there's a lot of interesting research that shows that going to a movie, for example, affects us physically. So when we're sitting and watching, say, a scary movie, and if you happen to measure everyone's heart rate, the whole room, everyone's heart rate increases. We all expel certain, different things in our breath that reveal that we're stressed. We all sweat a little bit more. And so his argument is pop culture affects us in very physical, deep ways that we don't even fully understand. We kind of tend to just say, well, this is trending and that's trending and it's reminding us of the Holocaust or whatever. But we have physical reactions to things. And that if that's happening from movies, it's probably happening from other things like the news and politics and watching sports. And we just really haven't tapped into this sort of, we're just meat sacks who watching stuff can just cause us to excrete different hormones and have different physical experiences. And so he talked about it just in terms of how movies affect us at a much deeper level. You can do things like, what I also liked is that normally when we talk about data and movies, we talk about like reviews or number of awards that they've won. Right. And he's not interested in those nearly as much as other things. So another thing you can do is put eye trackers on people when they watch movies. And you can track if a movie, in his words, if a movie is good, all of the audience should be looking at roughly the same part of the screen at all times. And so if you look at the main Star Wars, like 4, 5, 6, everyone's looking at this one thing, and then everyone's looking at this other thing, and they're following it. And if you watch other Star Wars movies, some audience members are looking at the upper left, some are looking at to the right, and he argues that that's one way that you could say, look, this was not a well-done movie for many other reasons, but in particular, we're not guiding the viewer to have a shared experience or even know where to look. And so it basically taps into all kinds of clever ways we've tried to measure movies and how they affect us that are way beyond the like Rotten Tomatoes kinds of conversations that we have.
Are you careful what you look at online? Like news especially? That hey, maybe this is affecting you somehow? I don't see how. You're not going to start being like, maybe, we could sit down with a Nazi. But do you worry like, hey, this might affect me. I got to not look at this.
I do. I am very... I should do a better job of seeking news from more sources, and I should do less reliance on social media to dictate what's important to me, because what I've decided is important to me is whatever my friends are posting about it. So that's why I know all this stuff about why no one likes Emilia Perez, even though it's really just one person. Right. From what I could tell. Right. I've tried to do things back in the day. I used to always try to go out of my way to watch right-wing news or listen to like Rush Limbaugh, and I just can't do it. And I consider that to be a failing on my part. They're horrible, but I feel like I should know what's being said. Do you?
Doesn't matter. No. No, because I hate devil advocate bullshit, and I know what the right's saying. It still comes to me somehow, and right now with what's going on. No. What kind of debate am I going to have? What's there to learn? What the fuck is there to learn about you stopping Medicaid?
No, I'm. It's one of those where it's like I find it so unthinkably bad that I'm hopeful that I'm missing something. and that it's not the case that half the country are evil. Like there has to be more to it. And so I'm not doing much about it.
Maybe there's not. You
Maybe
know,
there's not.
you just hope there is. You hope, like, if there's a God, he's good. But I don't know what kind of fucking king was ever good. You know what I mean? What are the chances? The guy who made everything, is in charge of everything, and needs you to pray to him every day, is a good guy. What are the chances? Right. So maybe we're just pretending. I don't know. Because you study these data points, do you know like more about us on this algorithm that we all have going on? And is it evil? You know what I mean?
I mean, the algorithms are proprietary, so I don't know any more than anyone else. And I probably know less than, the influencers who live and die by, hacking the algorithm and knowing what the latest things are that are being promoted. But it is the case. I was actually just on a show earlier today talking about some research that shows that, so algorithms cause us to have bias because the more you look at a certain type of thing, the more you get. You look at one slightly right-leaning YouTube, and the next thing you know, you're, Trump's running mate, whatever. Yeah. But AI is doing the same thing. So if you're using ChatGPT to say, hey, tell me about the pros and cons of vaccines, you can absolutely inject bias into AI and say, well, what are some of the studies that are actually, reveal some concerns? Okay. And it turns out that, lo and behold, no surprise, humans are very influenced by AI, if not more influenced, because at least when it comes to social media or even sometimes Google and Google results, we don't have the same skeptical eye, which many people don't even have that, where we say, well, it's AI, so it must know. And so there's a lot of room, I think, right now for us to really live in even more confirmation bias and disconfirmation bias than we currently are. I feel like it's only going to get worse.
And it's also understood that all these companies know exactly what they're doing, whether it's my Apple phone or it's Google on my computer. They all get fined $1 billion fucking every so often. Obviously, they don't care because selling our shit to advertising obviously is worth it to them.
Yes. I mean, I spend a lot of time, at a very low level, I spend a ton of time being mad at myself for how much I sit on my phone and I scroll and I scroll. And my boyfriend has commented that I spend almost every day. I uninstall Instagram. I'm like a smoker flushing their cigarettes. I uninstall it from my phone. And then the day later, I'm like shaking and I like bring it back. Right. And I beat myself up for it, but I know these things are designed to keep you in and blah, blah, blah. So that's like a personal micro level problem.
And they're like, don't worry, honey, we kept you logged in. Don't worry.
Yeah.
It won't be hard to get you back.
We saved all your data. I've tried to cancel my Facebook 1,000 times and I think it's still there. I don't. Every time I log into Instagram, it like re-ups my Facebook that I haven't looked at since 2009. Gotcha. But the other thing, the Trump inauguration, not to be alarmist, but the Trump inauguration with all those tech bros at the front.
Yes.
That I studied Chinese censorship as part of my PhD. That's what my dissertation was on.
Okay.
This is that. This is the minute the media is in the same pocket and the same team as the government, and we've been getting closer to that as it is, but we especially don't know how these algorithms work. Regular news is dying out and or also run by Jeff Bezos. I'm very, very concerned that these algorithms are about to be even worse.
Yeah, this is X, this is Instagram, this is Facebook. Two people are in charge of so much of these platforms. And
they're getting rid of fact checking insofar as it ever even existed. And it's one of the things that gives me solace, and I'm going to have a guest in season 2 talking about misinformation, is that insofar as we can detect misinformation empirically, which is not a trivial exercise, it seems like misinformation, at least on Facebook where they researched it, misinformation, it's not so much that it's like evenly widespread, that everyone is interacting with some misinformation or accidentally sharing some misinformation. It's that most misinformation comes from a small concentration of bad actors. So it's kind of like a couple bad fire hoses that are feeding it. So there gives me some hope that it's not like we're all out here just throwing misinformation around. Maybe we could stem it, but with these people in charge, I have very little optimism.
And if you ever notice, like, you have an Apple phone?
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter which one you have. But this Siri does not play it cool sometimes. I'll be talking to somebody and be like, oh, my favorite hair metal bands are going to do a concert together, I read. And then Siri will be like, Saturday, never mind. And I'm like, motherfucker, I didn't ask you. No. You just played yourself. Yeah. And also, I noticed this, and I don't think I'm making it up. When I'll be talking to or about my girlfriend or something, and, getting out, love feelings, obviously. If I go, hey, Siri, play songs I like, It's like old pop that's maybe romantic, this kind of thing.
Mm.
If I'm busting balls with a guy friend of mine and, we're being pretty caustic and I go play something, it's Metallica or something like this, I'm not finding this a coincidence.
I'm not finding it a coincidence either. I mean, the amount of targeted ads that reflect some random thing I talked about and did not Google or look up
Right.
is doesn't make me feel good. My weirdest one maybe is fairly innocuous, but a couple years ago I kept getting ads on Instagram for Ruggable, like the rug company. It's like washable rugs and blah blah blah.
Okay.
I've seen a million of their ads. It was every other ad was Ruggable, and I was like, I don't want a rug. I don't need a rug. What is this? And about a year later, my boyfriend and I moved. And I was like, oh, I should probably buy some rugs. And I was like, oh, Ruggable. And I was like, I'm not going to Rug. So I have not bought from Ruggable.
Right.
I never will buy from Ruggable. But they knew, I'm convinced, they knew before I did that I was going to move and need rugs. And I can only think we were like Googling apartments. We like looked at a million
Right.
online. I saved some open house, whatever information, right? And so I think it knew that I needed rugs before I knew that I needed rugs. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you're sponsored by Ruggable, but I'm not.
I forget the story, but there's some story with like Amazon was able to tell when women were on their periods
Yes.
and they would send them period related things at the
Yeah.
time. Like what? What
Yeah.
the fuck?
Yeah. I mean, you mix that with all of the legislation about women's bodies and trying to detect if someone is pregnant or not
Right.
in states that have banned abortion. I mean, it's very, I feel like I should put a tinfoil hat on as I describe this, but it's very concerning because they can figure that stuff out.
And there's nothing we can do, right?
I mean,
Not use
there
a phone.
are. Yeah, I mean, that's
know?
the thing is, I will say I left my phone in Switzerland in December. And it took 3 weeks to get back, but I knew it was coming back, so I didn't buy another phone. So I had 3 whole weeks with no phone, and it was one of the best 3 weeks of my life.
Okay.
Among other benefits, I mean, I wasn't scrolling all the time. I wasn't thinking about my phone or should I check my phone. Hours would go and I hadn't looked at my email, and it was amazing. But also, I wasn't expected to handle any logistics for anything. Like it was like holidays, we were all getting together, like who's going to bring this? What time are you going to get there? And I was just like, I'm just going to show
can't.
up. I can't. I don't know. So highly recommended to be the one friend in a group with no phone.
I
That's the way I
remember there was a story of a reporter who went to whatever country that was in America where they're making these Apple phones and saying how they saw kids in sweatshops making these phones.
Oh, in China? Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to get rid of my phone. In fact, I'm kind of thinking of just join a fucking commune because the world is so fucking sick. And then the reporter came out, and who knows how he was paid off, but he comes out and goes, yeah, I lied. I made that story up for attention. I'm like, okay, then I guess back to the phone. Not a problem. I wanted to believe
Kids
him.
are fine.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I was gonna quit, but now I have Candy Crush 3. Okay.
I had a big Candy Crush problem for a while.
Yeah,
I had
yeah.
to take a couple tries to uninstall that.
I actually spent $1 for like a bonus round or something. I felt like the biggest piece of shit.
I've been playing a game. I'm sure it's just spyware called Homescapes. I haven't played in a while, in my defense. I don't know if you ever played Homescapes. It's one of the ones that got in trouble because the ad made it look like it was a totally different game from what it is. It's basically Candy Crush inside of a guy redecorating his house.
Right.
And I have been very tempted. It's like, well, you're out of lives for the next 48 hours, but for 50 cents, you can play unlimited. And I was like, I will not.
Don't do it.
They're probably taking all my data and harvesting it for something. So
yeah, but they'll still take it even if you pay, is the thing.
Yeah.
Well, did you, by the way, speaking of Trump, did you see online Snoop Dogg back some years ago, maybe 7 years ago? He said, hey, you motherfuckers are going to perform at his first one, at Trump's inauguration, you little sellout bitches. He said, and I'll play it for you, pardon the French, but I want you to hear the way he says it, and you'll hear laughter in the background. Those are his friends. But he's saying, the worst words for Uncle Toms and sellouts. And here's Snoop Dogg now was just performing for Trump. Famed rapper Snoop Dogg lost more than 500,000 followers on Instagram and nearly 20,000 on X after his appearance at the Crypto Ball, a celebratory event tied to President Trump's inauguration. Critics highlighted his previous anti-Trump stance and speculated that financial incentives motivated his participation. I think we like Snoop. He doesn't seem to give a shit and says, we'll put down stupidity. He was definitely loudly anti-Trump, even very recently. So what is this? This was him back in the day.
So ain't nobody gonna perform for Donald Trump, huh? which one of you jigaboo ass niggas gonna be the first one to do it? I'm waiting. I'm gonna roast the fuck out one of you Uncle Tom ass niggas for doing it. Which one of you niggas gonna do it first? Osmond's the one that performs for himself.
What changed?
So,
What changed?
Wow. I mean, that is
Jesus
a strong
Christ.
stance. I just don't understand. I mean, JD Vance, not at that extreme, but JD Vance said all this horrible stuff about Trump and now is serving in his administration.
America's Hitler, etc. Yeah.
He must just have dirt on everyone. I mean, when he was running in 2015, all these people, so many people who say that he's the devil get swayed. Is it just money? I thought he didn't have, I guess maybe the Trump coin got enough money so he could pay Snoop. I don't know how they're doing it, but they're like flipping people. It's like the mafia.
Right. Well, that is in the movie The Apprentice that Trump learns about blackmail. Long story short, from
so that's it.
From his advisor. He's the
I
apprentice.
mean, it must
in
all
this
be
movie.
blackmail, right? It has to be.
It makes sense. Makes sense to me.
Should we be blackmailing more people? Would I be further in life if I were doing that? I don't have any dirt on literally anybody.
I don't think it can hurt.
Okay.
Start collecting data on your friends.
Yeah. I've been doing this all wrong. Here I am trying to understand the economy when really I need to understand Susan.
Right.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I got to get ahead and pay $2,000 a month rent, So come on, we got to think about
it's not
ourselves.
Pay itself. Yeah.
The podcast is called Behind the Data. Season 2 is coming out any minute now. It's Andrea Jones-Rooy with 2 O's for Roy. That's it. Anything else the audience should know?
That's the story. I can if they follow my Instagram, they can see pictures of my dogs. It's Jones-Rooy on Instagram. So that's
I saw, and how timely. You just did the what is it? ACL? The Lou Gehrig's disease, the bucket challenge.
Oh yeah, the ALS.
ALS,
yes. 10 years late, but I finally did it. It was
well. Wouldn't that be funny? It's breaking news. They have a cure.
Yeah. I mean, look, they did make an announcement about a month ago that there has been a breakthrough in treatment where for some people it either slows the progression of the disease and maybe reverses it ever so slightly. So it's obviously from me. So you're welcome, world.
Okay. And you lost a friend to that, right?
I did. Yeah. A good family friend. I'm from Western Maryland, and he was a pillar of the community down there. And I'm a little bit biased as well in the sense that he was a family friend. And my father is a documentary filmmaker and so is making a movie about that friend. And so watching him follow John's journey and then watching the process of making the film and all that has made me a very big advocate. Not advocate, but it's a charity that means a lot to me. And there's someone on Instagram named Brooke Eby, Limp Bruskit, like Limp Biscuit, but Brooke, who is currently living with ALS and is a fantastic, she describes everything she's going through. She's quite funny. I highly recommend that if people just want to get a sense of the disease, she's awesome. She's been in People Magazine and the Today Show. She's very.
She ever tell you why we go with ALS, not Lou Gehrig's disease? Is it because he shouldn't be the only one to have it?
Yeah, I guess they decided, I'm sure, I don't know how Lou Gehrig would feel about it. It's like, we don't really call it that anymore. We took it away. Like, oh, damn.
I had somebody, they were in the hospital with ALS and I took a bucket of water and splashed it on their face. And
did it help?
I'm like, I don't really follow this stuff. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. But anyway, he didn't make it. But now that you did that, I think we're going to get somewhere. I appreciate it.
We're in the clear.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. It's very nice meeting you, Andrea.
Thanks for having me, Keith, and good job with that colonoscopy.
Thank you. We were a team, me and the doctor. I did say that. I'm like, how'd we do? Good work, right? He said, yeah, we did well.